Coming up on Arirang News. Marking the 60th anniversary of ties, South Korea and Canada will further strengthen their partnership for the next 60 years for a more peaceful, democratic, and just world. This with President Yoon and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau agreeing to expand cooperation between the two countries in key areas during their summit. 3 stages of South Korea's first homegrown space rocket, Nuri, have been successfully assembled with only a week left until its 3rd liftoff. We take a look at the process and what's left until the launch. From delivery to rescue and even air sports, the world of drones is expanding. Tonight, we visit the Korea Drone and UAM Expo 2023, where futuristic drones are front and center. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. Tonight, we begin with South Korea-Canada Summit. President Yoon kicked off his week full of diplomatic activities by hosting Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at his office. Marking the 60th anniversary of ties, this completes an exchange of visits by the two leaders as the two promise further cooperation. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon leads us off.
South Korea and Canada vowed to expand cooperation on key areas as President Yoon Suk-yeol hosted his Canadian counterpart Justin Trudeau for a summit on Wednesday. This is centered around 5 key areas: global order, security, economy and innovation, climate change, and culture. Security especially took a major step forward.
우리 두 정상은 작년 12월 양국 방산 군수 협력 양해 각서가 개정되고 올해 4월 양국 간 비밀 정보 공유의 범위를 방산 분야까지 확대하는 비밀 정보 보호 협정에 관한 협상이 개시된 것을 환영하고 양국 간 방산 협력 확대를 위한 지원을 계속해 나가기로 했습니다.
The two also penned a memorandum of understanding on exchanges for key natural resources and minerals. According to the joint statement, this MOU will further cooperation towards strengthening and securing supply chains for clean energy and critical minerals. This could be due to South Korea's strength in battery and automobile production and Canada's abundant natural resources.
For Canadians, it'll mean more investment, more trade, and more research and development in our country. Together, it'll mean benefiting our workers to develop clean and reliable solutions like next-generation electric vehicles to power our net zero future.
Another agreement was for the younger generations as there will be more working holiday visas available for Koreans. President Yoon has always put South Korea's relationship with Canada as one of his priorities for diplomacy. In fact, they met multiple times in the past year of Yoon's term, and last September, Canada was the first country that President Yoon visited solely for a bilateral meeting when the two's relationship upgraded to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And this visit completes the exchange of visits between the two countries as they celebrate the 60th anniversary of the diplomatic ties. Yoon touched upon the long history as well.
이번 총리님의 방한 기회에 한국과 캐나다가 함께 피를 흘린 혈맹이라는 점이 다시 국민들께 알려지는 그리고 우리가 이것을 다시 되새기고 잊지 않는 계기가 되기를 기대합니다. 자유, 인권, 법의 지배라는 보편적 가치에 기반한 양국의 전통적 우방 관계는 이제 미래지향적인 협력 관계로 도약하고 있습니다.
And with the growing uncertainties around the globe, including the war in Ukraine, they vowed to work together.
But even as we celebrate that past, we must allow ourselves to be inspired and strengthened by the resolve shown in the past because we are facing times of incredible challenge and complexity right now and into the future.
In the meantime, this summit kicks off President Yoon's busy week of diplomacy as he goes to Hiroshima to attend the G7 summit. This will be followed by visits from the German Chancellor as well as EU leaders next week. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Attending a conference in Seoul today, President Yoon urged for a resolute response against any attempt to disrupt international order, calling for stronger global solidarity. His remarks come at a high-stakes moment in terms of geopolitics. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has called for a resolute response to disruptions and peace cooperation amid North Korea's nuclear threats and human rights abuses and the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine. Speaking at the Asian Leadership Conference on Wednesday, Yoon stressed the need to overcome the various transnational crises and challenges countries share in a world where the concept of security is expanding.
안보, 공급망 교란, 기후 환경, 보건 위기는 지구 어느 한 지역에서 발생하더라도 전 지구적으로 급속하게 그 위기가 확산됩니다. 정치 군사적 안보도 과거 지역 안보 개념에서 글로벌 안보 개념으로 바뀌고 있습니다.
Amid such challenges, Yoon said there are forces that violate global laws and norms, saying the international community must work together to resolutely respond to these attempts to change the status quo through coercive diplomacy and military force, including weapons of massive destruction and nuclear weapons. He expressed gratitude for the international community's condemnation of North Korea amid the regime's numerous provocations conducted over the past year and abysmal human rights record. While he said the door is open for dialogue, he said his administration has taken a firm response to Pyongyang. Also, with a shout-out to Ukrainian First Lady Olena Zelenska, who also attended the conference, Yoon emphasized that global support for Ukraine benefits all citizens of the world.
자유, 인권, 법의 지배라는 보편적 가치를 공유하는 국가들은 우크라이나에 대한 불법적 침략과 힘에 의한 현상 변경 시도가 성공하는 전례를 결코 남겨서는 안 된다는 우리 모두의 그 지지를 다 보내야 합니다.
Setting out a bolder global role for South Korea as a defender of freedom and innovation, Yoon says Seoul seeks to strengthen cooperative relations and multi-level joint problem-solving processes across diverse issue areas. The South Korean leader highlighted the need to provide greater assistance to vulnerable countries with the necessary infrastructure and support to tackle climate, digital, health and developmental challenges. As he embarks on his second year in office, Yoon pledged to further roll out Seoul's global pivotal state policy, practicing diplomacy based on responsibility and contribution to the international community. The conference was attended by global opinion leaders and corporate chiefs, including former UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon, Samsung leader Lee Jae-yong, and former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres sent a video message to the participants, calling for collaborative, innovative solutions to critical gaps in global governance. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The South Korean government signed an agreement to provide support to Ukraine under the Economic Development Cooperation Fund. The Ministry of Economy and Finance announced on Wednesday that Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho signed a preliminary agreement to offer aid to Ukraine under the EDCF during a meeting held with his Ukrainian counterpart, Yulia Sviridenko. South Korea launched the fund in 1987 to provide developing nations with long-term loans with low interest rates. Last year, the country provided $100 million worth of humanitarian assistance to Ukraine and announced in February that it'll provide an additional $130 million in aid. The business sectors of South Korea and Japan have agreed to actively cooperate in new industries to strengthen their partnership. On Wednesday, more than 200 business leaders from the two countries held the 55th South Korea-Japan Business Conference. There, they agreed to expand economic ties, promote exchanges in various fields, and cooperate toward the success of South Korea's bid to host the World Expo in 2030. They also agreed to actively cooperate in the digital and green sectors and welcomed the recent improvement in Seoul-Tokyo relations, outlining the benefits and ways cooperations can be done successfully. South Korea is counting on displays to be part of its national strategy to reclaim the top spot in the global market. The country is also gearing up to expand mainstay exports, including seafood and the products of SMEs. Our economic correspondent, Lee Dae-hyun, reports.
South Korea's exports are set for expansion, according to the Finance Ministry on Wednesday. This was discussed during an emergency ministerial meeting hosted by Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho. Chu presented three major sectors that the country will focus on: displays, seafood, and supporting SMEs. He said the government will come up with a measure to bolster the display industry, as competition has been heating up due to a rise in relatively new players in the market, such as China. South Korea held the top spot in the global display market from 2004 to 2020 and is aiming to take the title back.
We will make core display technology a national strategic technology and encourage private sector investment. Financial support policies, R&D investment and nurturing talents will also be provided, as well as stabilizing the supply chain.
Detailed measures are set to be revealed by the industry ministry later this week. Strengthening exports from small and mid-sized companies was also on the table. Financial support for SMEs known as policy funds will be provided with unlimited access to these funds until the end of 2024. SMEs with exports of more than $300,000 over the last year will be eligible. The support comes as SME exports dropped almost 8% on year in the first quarter of 2023.
R&D support will be provided for companies with exports of over $5 million, while indirect export companies will be eligible to get policy funds, R&D, and smart factory supports.
Smart logistics centers for SMEs will be built by 2025 at Incheon International Airport, while a global business center will be established in Saudi Arabia later in September to help Korean companies seeking business opportunities in the Middle East. Meanwhile, the country will also develop high added value seafood in order to reach the goal of $4.5 billion worth of seafood exports by 2027. The Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said it will boost major items including dried seaweed and tuna. It will also make efforts to develop ready-to-eat seafood meals and health supplements while fostering a variety of seafood items such as salmon, fish cakes, and oysters. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
The combined sales in Europe of South Korea's auto giants Hyundai Motor and Kia increased slightly on year last month. Data from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, Hyundai and Kia combined sold a total of close to 90,000 vehicles in last month, up 1.1% from last year. The rise was led by a near 5% boost in sales by Kia, while Hyundai saw a 3% drop. Their best-selling models in Europe are SUVs, Hyundai's Tucson and Kona and Kia's Sportage. In addition, their EV sales in Europe exceeded 500,000 units for the first time last month. South Korean companies saw a sharp decline in profits in the first quarter of 2023, with tech firms seeing the biggest losses due to the sluggish semiconductor market. According to Korea Exchange on Wednesday, companies listed on the country's main benchmark KOSPI saw a total net profit of just over $14 billion, nearly a 60% decline compared to the first quarter of last year. It's the first time since 2009 that profits of KOSPI-listed companies have fallen by more than 50% on year. Of the 17 different industries listed, only 3 saw an improvement in both net and operating profits. Electronics firms such as Samsung Electronics saw a loss in earnings instead of profits, recording a 98% decline in net profit. A day before the 43rd anniversary of the May 18 Gwangju Democratization Movement, South Korean politicians are headed to the city of Gwangju to pay tribute to those who perished during the movement. Our Lee Si-woo tells us more about the significance of this day in Korea.
This Thursday marks the 43rd anniversary of the May 18th Gwangju Democratization Movement. The pro-democracy movement began in the southwestern city of Gwangju on May 18, 1980, in response to a military coup d'etat by General Chun Il-sung, who would rule South Korea as a dictator for most of the decade. Chun had extended martial law to the whole nation, closing universities and curtailing the press, prompting Gwangju citizens, including some Jeonnam National University students, to demonstrate against this oppression. In response, Chun deployed special military forces to put down this movement using brutal force, killing hundreds and injuring countless others over a period of 10 days. But the resistance by ordinary citizens made Gwangju South Korea's symbolic center for civil action. And now May 18th is widely remembered as the day that gave birth to democracy in a struggling nation. And President Yoon Suk-yeol, for the first time for a conservative president, last year led his aides, his cabinet, and the entire ruling conservative party to Gwangju to pay tribute to those who perished during the resistance. Also a first for a conservative leader, President Yoon sang out loud, "Marching for Our Beloved," a song dedicated to the victims. Mr. Yoon referred to the May 18th spirit as a living part of history that should be passed down for generations and spread throughout the world. Following the president's unprecedented move, this year many lawmakers from ruling and opposition blocs are again headed to Gwangju. Some 90 out of 115 lawmakers with the People Power Party are reportedly planning to take a train there together. Young PPP lawmakers born in or after 1980 and former party leader Lee Jun-seok are attending the Eve commemoration ceremony on Wednesday, along with some members of the main opposition Democratic Party and Justice Party. The DP reportedly encouraged all its members to attend ceremonies on Wednesday and Thursday. DP party leader Lee Jae-myung and floor leader Park Kwang-won will be staying in Gwangju for 2 days. Meanwhile, former President Moon Jae-in on Wednesday paid his respects at the May 18th National Cemetery in Gwangju, a first since his return to private life last year. Moon told reporters the democracy we enjoy today is due to the sacrifices made during the movement. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
We're just a week away from the third launch of Nuri, South Korea's first fully homegrown space rocket. And today, engineers successfully combined all of its 3 stages. Our Song Yoo-jin explains the process and what's ahead until Nuri takes off.
It seems like final preparations are going smoothly for the third launch of South Korea's first homegrown space rocket, Nuri. According to the Korea Aerospace Research Institute, engineers on Wednesday successfully assembled all 3 stages of the rocket. This follows the assembly of the rocket's top 3rd stage last week after satellites were installed. This time, the 200-ton vehicle will carry 8 satellites used for scientific research once in orbit. This includes a next-generation small satellite invented by the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which can record videos 550 kilometers above Earth, even if the weather is rainy or cloudy. The batch will also have a set of 4 weather monitoring SNIPE satellites, the first set of satellites in the world capable of flying in formation. The second launch last year successfully placed a dummy satellite and a performance verification satellite into orbit. But these satellites were not of practical use. The first launch the year before failed to put a dummy satellite into orbit. If no problems are detected after final inspections, Nuri will be sealed in case of rainfall. On Monday, it will then board a special unmanned rocket transporter. On Tuesday morning, 1 day before its launch, the transporter will deliver the vehicle to its launch pad at the Naro Space Center in South Korea's southern Jeollanam-do province. After final preparations, the launching committee will decide whether to follow the initial launch schedule of Wednesday at 6:24 p.m. Last year, the launch was postponed multiple times due to technical issues and the weather. Once Nuri takes off, its success will be determined within 20 minutes. The results will be announced around 80 minutes after blastoff. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Drones these days are not limited to deliveries and future transport, but are also being used for special drone sports like soccer and racing. All different kinds can be seen at the Korea Drone and UAM Expo 2023. Our business correspondent Shin Ah-young went to see for herself and files this report.
A drone that can fly and float on water can be used to transport cargo, water sports, and even help ships that have caught fire. a search and rescue drone that has a flashing light and provides a life belt and an emergency kit. Both can be seen at the Korea Drone and UAM Expo 2023, which kicked off on Wednesday in the city of Incheon in South Korea with its largest exhibition to date, offering visitors a glimpse of both the present and future of drones.
Under the theme of New Daily Life with Drones and Urban Air Mobility, the four-day event showcases not only the cutting-edge technologies of drone industry in South Korea, but also the country's status as a leading nation in drone leader sports.
Around 200 players from home and abroad are participating in the World Drone Soccer Championship. Also, there are opportunities for younger generations to participate in the youth competition. On the other side of the exhibition, racers from 15 countries are competing in the 2023 Korea Drone Racing World Cup. The race takes place around an advanced racing course equipped with automatic detection devices and IoT technology developed in South Korea. According to the Transport Ministry, the global drone market is projected to surpass 125.5 trillion Korean won, or nearly $94 billion by 2030. In particular, sectors like transportation and logistics are expected to grow the most. Under the bright outlook, the government is working with local authorities to introduce drone delivery services to areas with poor delivery accessibility.
To commercialize drone delivery starting September, we will work together with local authorities to test drones in cities with a consideration of each city's geological features. We are planning to install flight paths in areas that have poor delivery accessibility, as well as drone stations in front of people's houses.
Meanwhile, during the event's opening ceremony, South Korea's Vice Minister of Land Infrastructure and Transport emphasized the importance of safety.
The government will support the technological development and demonstration of drone companies while also building a drone traffic management system by 2028 to ensure safety.
He added that it will improve regulations in line with the level of technological development to swiftly eliminate any barriers caused by unnecessary costs. 신하영, Arirang News.
Hundreds of people were feared dead after a cyclone struck Myanmar during the weekend. Rescue efforts appear to be hampered by damage to infrastructure. Jeong has the details.
Hundreds of people are feared to have died after Cyclone Mocha hit Myanmar on Sunday. Myanmar's shadow government on Tuesday said that at least 400 people have been killed and an unspecified number of people are still missing. Aid groups also said Tuesday there were a significant number of deaths. This stands in contrast to an earlier report by Myanmar state media, which said the official death toll stands at 3 people with 13 others injured. Winds of up to 210 kilometers per hour ripped roofs off homes and brought a storm surge that inundated the state capital Sittwe on Sunday. Aid agencies fear that Myanmar's impoverished Rakhine state was hit the hardest, with most of the casualties coming from the region. Rakhine has a large population of Rohingya Muslims, a persecuted minority that successive Myanmar governments have refused to recognize. More than 1 million live in sprawling camps in neighboring Bangladesh, having fled crackdowns by Myanmar's junta in recent years. According to Reuters, residents say that over 100 Rohingya were killed. Myanmar has been gripped by political and economic chaos since the military seized power in a coup in 2021. Since then, fighting has raged across the country between the military and pro-democracy or allied ethnic armed groups. Non-governmental organizations said storm damage to communications and road infrastructure and ongoing restrictions by Myanmar's military government were making it difficult to get information from and deliver aid to the affected area. Myanmar state media on Tuesday said the junta chief had visited Sittwe to assess the damage, donate money, and give instructions on the response. About 400,000 people were evacuated in Myanmar and Bangladesh before the storm made landfall on Sunday. The UN Humanitarian Office said about 6 million people in the region were already in need of humanitarian assistance before the storm, among them 1.2 million people internally displaced by ethnic conflict. The recent storm was one of the worst since Cyclone Nargis swept across parts of southern Myanmar, killing nearly 140,000 people in 2008. 정은주, Arirang News.
The extreme heat that baked much of South Korea for the past couple of days will ease off tomorrow. A surge of cold air from the south of the country will bring temperatures back to the seasonal average. For Seoul, it will go down by only a couple degrees, but other regions such as Gangneung and Gwangju will see a huge drop in the readings. The south of the country will see rainfall starting tomorrow evening. Mountainous regions will see the highest amount of rainfall with up to 80 millimeters in the forecast. Local downpours may lead to flooding, so for those across Jeju Island, please take extra precautions beforehand. The south coast will see relatively less with about 5 to 30. The surrounding regions will see spotty showers of less than 5 millimeters. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 17 degrees. Maximum temperatures in Seoul and Chuncheon will be reaching 25, Gwangju 21, Daegu will be topping out at 23 degrees. And sunny skies will make a return early next week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with the most up-to-date news tomorrow. Have a good night.